interrupting to come in after you've started. Okay.
Are you pressing record now?
Yep. So you can say anything you like. Yep.
Mint water. See? I told you. Oh, Bruce, you're so 1980s. It's just, we're going to try to bring you up to speed.
All right, who wants to talk pride?
Bruce.
Oh.
Just because I brought a brownie to class doesn't mean I'm prideful. It just means I haven't had dinner. So, what do you want to know about pride? Ask me anything.
Well, different commentaries talk about it different ways. There's a divine pride, which we're not talking about, which is actually a good thing, which is a feeling of, it's a way of seeing everything in the world as being pure and special. It sort of relates to the Bodhisattva vow to see everyone as the teacher with a capital T. And so the form of pride where one thinks that everything is great and everything is good and everything is wonderful, and everything is an expression of holy beings, and I'm related to everyone as a holy being and as a teacher so that I can learn from them. That's good, and we're not talking about that. So when we talk about pride, they divide it actually. There are different ways and different scriptures where they talk about pride. But here there are mainly 9 different ways that they talk about pride and divide it, right? So if we think about our experience at work or on the subway, we look at someone and we compare ourselves to them, right? And this is all about comparing ourselves to other people. You have pride in relation to others. So, we see somebody and like, I'm better fashioned than them, right? I look better than they do. I have nicer glasses than them, or my shoes are better, or whatever it is, right? But not just talking about their clothes, but them, right? So, we compare ourselves to someone and we think, I'm better than they are. Now, there's the delusional aspect where we compare ourselves to someone who's actually a lot better than us. For example, you can take, for an easy example, the Dalai Lama, and think, well, yeah, he's pretty good, but he's only a little better than me, right? So this kind of sort of delusional pride where we elevate ourselves, and we have an inflated opinion of ourselves, and when we compare ourselves to others, right? Like, I'm only that far away, right? This is the kind of pride where we're pumping ourselves up and comparing ourselves to people who are better than us, right? So they're better than me, but not by much. Then there's another kind of pride where we look at someone and we think, well, okay, they're better than me, but only in this one way. There's only one little way where they're better than I am. I'm better than them and everything else, right? And there's another kind of pride where we look at someone and we think that, he thinks he's better than me, but he's not. So we're really comparing ourselves to people who are below us and the same as us and above us, really, and going like, I'm better than him or her, and this way, that way, or the other way, right? Okay. So all of these are focused on someone who's truly better than we are, like in having some kind of delusion that we're better than them in some way, or we're almost as good as them, right? Some kind of feeling that I'm definitely better than them. And then there's a kind of pride that focuses on people who are slightly less than we are. And yeah, so it's an exaggeration. So if somebody who might be just a little less competent than us, and we think that we're way better than they are, right? Like, I'm vastly smarter than them, or I'm vastly superior at this job than they are, or my yoga is much better than theirs, or my intellect, or my humor, or my fashion, or whatever it might be, right? And then there's pride, which is focused on people who are at our own level and thinking we're better than them. So we're comparing ourselves to people who are below us, people who are equal to us, and people who are above us, and making various comparisons to them. Yeah.
Why should we necessarily default to attributing that to pride when it might be simply misapprehension?
When you say misapprehension, what do you
Well,
mean?
it's difficult to evaluate anybody's performance, including one's own. So maybe I look at so-and-so and say they're a 9 when they're really a 7, or a 7 when they're really a 9. As long as I do with pride, just as I don't have the capacity to evaluate them, or it's very difficult to evaluate them, and I needed more tools, I needed more time, or maybe no one can evaluate accurately, given a certain complex set of circumstances.
Or said another way, maybe I'm right. No, I mean.
Is that what you meant?
Yes, of course.
Or it's a valid perception.
It's a valid perception, right? Whereas Bruce's perception, which is even better than
More than valid,
perception,
yes.
over valid.
Can be a valid, incorrect perception.
I'm more valider than you. So yeah, there is the element of I'm assessing something, right, and drawing a conclusion, right. However, the relativistic comparison of I'm better than them serves a particular purpose, which is to prevent one from being open and seeing things and learning things. One of the qualities of pride is to believe that we have abilities and qualities beyond others and superior to others, right, above others, which then becomes an impediment to learning. So conversely, if we have the attitude that says everyone is my teacher and I can learn something from everyone, then we're going around constantly open, constantly looking for ways to improve ourselves, right? And to learn at every opportunity, and to, essentially practice at every opportunity. So the idea of pride, especially with Dharma, is that it closes us to learning and engaging in practice. Because there's this aspect of I'm gratifying myself by being better than them in my mind, right? So that process, so the pride thing, if we're doing a comparison, right, and with pride, the conclusion is always I'm better than them in some way, right? So pride is not saying, well, on a scale of 1 to 5, I'm a 3 and they're a 2. And that's okay, and I'll learn something from them anyway, or I'll be loving or kind or compassionate to them anyway. The function of pride basically is to position higher than someone else, right? I'm better, they're worse. Not so bodhisattva-like, right? Not so focused upon lifting the other person up and helping the other person. It's more focused upon me being in a higher, more advantageous position than they are, at least in my own story that I'm telling myself. Yeah.
What do you do when you really have genuine ability that somebody else doesn't have, or experience, or?
So I think that's what he's saying is different. If you have motivation of, assessing that if you're better than the person below, what appears below you, or more skilled, let's say, but your motivation is to help bring them up, making that assessment, then that would not be considered
Right.
in the same way that you're saying pride. I mean, it sounds like how we're talking about judgment. Pride is it's very flat.
So remember, we're talking about mental afflictions, right? We're talking about things which disturb the mind and which keep the mind from being, kind of a happy, uplifted, positive state, right? So look at it in that context. If I have mental content which is running along the lines of I'm better than that person, right? They're saying that's afflictive, that is disruptive, that is disturbing the mind, that it's not a positive mental state, it's not a cause for happiness or a a pleasant or uplifting thought in the moment, really. So that's the point. Now, I mean, you can say, well, if I am better than that, really, I feel good, right? So I think the only thing I would reply to that, or would say to that is that it's not compassion, it's not love, and it's not bodhicitta. It's a way of being gratified in the short term. And so from the perspective of a real cause of happiness, it isn't a true cause of happiness because it's not putting anything out. I mean, if you think about it from a karmic perspective, it's not putting anything out that benefits anyone, and therefore nothing's going to come back to me in any kind of positive karmic result. I mean, I would just try to mentally work with it in that frame of reference. Is, if I think that thought, what is it going to produce for me in the future, right? I think I'm better than someone else. What's it going to produce for me in the future?
I've worked with plenty of people who, beating their chest, think is the best thing they can do for the planet. Like, I'm so good, and I'm going to tell you how good I am, and if you do this, you're going to be as good as me, but until then, you're not going to be as good as me. And the more good I am, the more I can help people. Because I'm powerful and happy, because I'm good.
And?
Well, I'm just refuting or putting something up for debate. Because their karmic response is, I'm doing this so everybody else can see what it's really like to be as good as me.
So, I think, so if I understand you, what you're saying is that people who say, you know what, I've got the answer, and follow me, boys, right, and you'll do well, right, have some kind of positive...
It's the intent is, I want everyone else to be as good as I am.
So I mean, I would say, I would address it on two levels. One is that there's ignorance, right, which is saying everything exists externally in this concrete way, right? And I would say you have to look at the motivation, which is, am I trying to help other people, or am I trying to say I'm better than everyone, and because I'm better than everyone, they should do what I do, right?
And I don't need to help people because I'm better than them.
Well, I mean, I suppose you could read that in. I'm not sure if that's part of the intention, perhaps.
But that's what has been happening sometimes, I'd say.
Perhaps. But
I would just wanted to throw the aspect of motivation with someone that's feeling quite happy being prideful.
Yeah.
I'm not harming anyone, I'm helping everyone.
No, I think it's a good debate. I think one of the big issues with that kind of positioning is that one is the one who knows everything, and the one who's leading, and the one who's then not learning, and the one who, if one has the superior position, then one is no longer the student, if you will. And if we're going to do this path, and if we're going to do this practice, I think we have to be paying attention all the time and open to examining our body, speech, and mind continuously, right? To see if I'm doing things which are benefiting other people and myself or not. So I think the point here is that someone who's in really a prideful position is not open to doing those things because they think themselves superior, and because they think themselves superior, by default,
they're cutting off learning.
Right.
Or it's like equality. It's like thinking like black people are less than you, women are less than you, or
the issue is the mind, right? The issue is one's mind.
Right.
So what is going on with that person's mind if they're prideful? If somebody's prideful, I got the answers, I know it, I'm better, right?
So they don't want to learn anything.
Very unlikely. Very unlikely if someone has that positioning, that attitude, that they're going to be saying to the people around them, let me be open and receptive and considerate of what you're thinking and what you're saying and how I'm engaging with you. So, I mean, it's a good debate, and I think we have to frame it in the context of what does it mean karmically, and you know, what does it do to one's peace of mind. And from what I've read, the main issue with pride is that you're basically closed.
Actually, also you are planting negative karma, I guess, because if you are constantly looking at other beings as being lesser, you're putting those imprints in your mind as what you're putting out there. Everything is lesser. Everything is lesser.
Thank you. Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, the basic. If you think about someone's mind who thinks, "I've got it figured out, and I know the answers, and I'm better than everybody else," they're basically not interested in learning a lot of new stuff because they've already got the answers.
Well, there's different degrees of that too, though.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a right. You know, I just think it's an interesting topic because as New Yorkers, I think we are kind of built in with an incredible amount of pride. I mean, we are, generally speaking, I think it's a city, very much like a know-it-all city. And I get that sense every time I leave the city and I take the attitude with me.
And they go like, "What's with you and your attitude, girl?"
I'm like, I'm looking at them and I'm like, "What's with you? Like, why don't you get it?"
Why don't you get it? What, are you lesser than me?
Like, you know, it's so bizarre. But there's something about the survival mechanism of being in this city where you do have to kind of, I think about jobs, and my job always is, you know, if I'm pitching against other companies, you know, the question always is me coming in saying, "I'm good.
I'm better than that.
I'm better than them, and this is why, and this is how I'm going to benefit you." That, like, that's my whole thing that I have to do.
Yeah.
And it's tiring, but that's the way it seems as though, you know.
So here's, no, I think it's a great point, which is to say, you know, it's part of our social milieu, which is to say, whoever's better wins.
Whoever says they're better.
Yeah, whoever pretends or pitches or appears or,
totally.
you know.
The whole last generation is full of pride.
Yeah.
The generation coming up, those people like who are in their early 20s,
They're just depressed.
I don't know if
Okay,
they're
let's not go too far here, all right?
So I think that's.
So,
But I think it's interesting because I remember once someone saying the back door to enlightenment is humility. And I think about that a lot because I think maybe that's the best way. And if I'm going to strategize, maybe I'm going to go that way instead.
That's how you can win.
I know. Maybe I'll take the back door.
I think there's competitiveness is being filtered into our society. And when I think about people in their 20s, I feel like they're a lot more competitive than my generation was. My generation was more about music and art and people coming together, and then I see these people coming up who are younger, and it's all about like competition and like, you know, getting the man, and it's like suddenly like dating people has become like a strange thing because everyone's so competitive. When I was younger, people were just like in the more free love things, and nobody really got jealous of other people. I don't know.
we don't want to go there. But here's perhaps a really nice way to frame it is that to be on the spiritual path and to become enlightened, you have to be always improving yourself, right? It's a constant process of saying, what do I need to clean up? You know, what negativity do I need to address? You know, what positive qualities do I need to develop in myself, right? So I think that's perhaps a very simple, concise way to think of it. One has to be doing that consistently, you know, as a baseline to practice. So if someone is saying, "I got it figured out and I'm better than everybody," as a general way of being, how can they be always saying, what do I need to fix and what do I need to change and what do I need to improve? They're almost incongruent, you know. So I think really that's a clean way to think about it. Okay. Then the fourth primary mental affliction is ignorance, right? So ignorance is the active opposite of knowledge. Marikpa is ignorance. It's a destructive misunderstanding of your world. And you can't have any of these other mental afflictions without it. It's impossible to have any of these other mental afflictions without ignorance, right? If you get rid of ignorance, you get rid of your mental afflictions, basically. Right? The final mental affliction that you get rid of right before you reach nirvana is ignorance, right?
Ignorance about the way you see the world.
In its most subtle form, the final seeds of misperceiving reality are the last afflictions you get rid of right before attaining nirvana. And so misunderstanding the world is also a mental affliction. And it's really the ultimate mental affliction, right? You know, how did I get this phone? You know, I got this phone by taking some money and going to the Apple store and buying it. That's how I got the phone. That's where the phone came from. That's ignorance. That's it.
I think in Dante, pride is the last one to go.
Yeah. So it's very difficult to live according to the view that says this phone didn't come from me taking some money or a credit card and going to the store. Right? Very hard to live that way. And it's a completely different view from what society tells us. You know, society tells us money comes from hard work, being intelligent, investing wisely, blah, 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 blah. And that's the source of money. Is it? No, because it doesn't always work. Right? Karmically, the source of money is skill. Okay? So, if we follow the strictures of the belief system of our society, right, according to what's prescribed, and we live according to these principles that if you go to work and you get the money and you have the money and you buy things and that's how you get things and that's where things come from, right? The best that societal paradigm has to offer is that you can work 50 weeks a year to get the money and save the money to buy the stuff so that you can use it, you know, a little bit in the evenings and on the weekends and your other 2 weeks or 3 or 4 weeks off, and you can collect it and hang on to it until you die and then you lose it all anyway.
I was just pointing out with the generation thing, I think that we were getting more prideful as a society. I think they're pushing, like, the way music is today and that's popular, it's very much about, like, I have this, I have that, I look good, like in hip hop and in pop music and stuff like that, rather than about being a message to people or trying to, I mean, I know that they're trying to help people in Baltimore and where.
So if we feel that our world is becoming more prideful, right, then we've got to start addressing it in ourselves, right?
Yeah,
and start to work
it's a
on
reflection of me.
Yeah, so we've got to, anything that we're seeing, we have to start to work on in ourselves, right?
Right.
In terms of how can I address this in my own mind and how it arises in my own mind. Right? Pursue.
Yeah, I was going to say that someone who is prideful and who inevitably suffers the consequences, negative consequences of that ignorant worldview, and especially in their interactions with others who are the recipients of that prideful behavior, has at least an impetus to change, because there's this negative feedback. But if you take somebody who then says, well, you know, I'm cognizant that this prideful behavior is not constructive, and now I'm going to be everybody's friend, and I'm going to give everybody an uplifted moment and so forth. But in a sense, haven't you, in doing that, prescribed a way to reconcile them to the notion that there is a self and an other, and that that, if anything, is a more pernicious reinforcement of the notion of a self, because now I can be happy about the generous me, the good me, the unprideful me, in a way that the prideful person at some deep level, okay, could never find that satisfaction. So now I've become more embedded in ignorance rather than less.
So if I understand you, you're saying that by being
A good me,
generous or whatever.
yeah, good me is easier to swallow than a prideful bad me.
So if I'm generous and I'm self-gratified by my generosity, that I'm simply reinforcing that there's self-existent view.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sure, that's possible. Yeah.
I
Why do you
think
give us
the-
such terrible advice? Why don't you follow my, oh,
I'm sure a lot of therapy about this.
well, sorry, I had a prideful moment there. So why are you giving this advice then? Why don't you tell us to say prideful or unprideful, plague on both your houses? They're both samsara. They both reinforce an ego, a sense of separateness, self and other. In the one case, I'm predatory. In the other case, I'm benign. But it's still a me and a you. And never the twain shall meet.
Because that's not
Yeah.
because that's not what the text is doing right now. That's not what the text says. Bruce. I'm not making it up, you know? I'm not making things up. I'm following the text.
It's an easy out, but right ahead.
The kids that are coming up nowadays who are like 7 years old or 8 years old, I think they have a lot, they're happier, and I think they're less full of pride. I think the next generation's gonna come up is gonna be a little bit more into helping people.
Well, that would be lovely. That would be very nice, yeah. So, but to your point, to bump it up, you know, let's just bump it up a notch, right? Bruce is saying, like, pump it up here, right?
That's right.
Bring it on.
All right. It's like weird, a certain thing.
It's a guy thing, you know.
And your husband will understand.
My husband understands.
G, real men don't hide it. Okay. Sorry. Had to get that out there. So what about it? I mean,
Yeah,
you're
so-
just reconciling me to my own egotism.
So, yeah, so you're talking about view, right? Ignorance and view. So if you're going to say, look, ideally, you want to be walking around thinking all of these things are an expression of my own mind, right? They don't exist from their own side. And I want to relate to everything, engage with everything on that basis, right? And so, you know, I'm putting out and projecting goodness and virtue and whatever, you know, positivity that I'm going to do. And what I'm generating and putting out is what matters, not what's out there.
I guess it's a reflection though. When you see, you know, people, it's a reflection of your own pridefulness.
Yeah, whatever we're experiencing is a reflection of our own karma, right? And our own mind stream. Yeah. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you. You know, it's wonderful to be able to walk around and think, I'm manifesting this reality. I'm experiencing this, my karmic ripenings, and you know, nothing exists from its own side, and I'm experiencing my projections continuously, right? And that's the value and identity and nature of everything that I'm engaging with. Right? So that's good. And Mr. Shantideva is going through saying, look, you know, you're not going to be able to think like that all the time. Sometimes you're just going to be angry. And when you're angry, do this.
No offense to anybody here in their 20s. Bears rock.
No offense.
No text, none taken.
Isn't the point of the 6
Oh, but you've been born in the
The
1920s.
point of the 6 that we're talking about are the things that block us from having the experience that Bruce is talking about, to have that non-dual. I mean, the idea is that these 6 things are the reasons why you don't have a perfect mind.
These are 6 primary mental afflictions. 6 very common, pretty much continuously present mental afflictions. And if they're there, then your peace of mind isn't there.
Right.
Because they are, by definition, opposite. You know? So what you're saying is quite true, Bruce, and I completely agree. And we all know from experience that the content of the mind is continuously in flux. You know, if you do retreat or you try to get a single point of concentration and meditation, you know, you see very quickly that even if I'm trying to hold my mind on one thought consistently, it doesn't last very long. You know, and so the guide has this long list of ways to think and things to think about and all the rest, right? And you know, as we go through these mental afflictions, you know, something like, I don't know, it's like 90% of scriptures are about how to deal with your mental afflictions with band-aids. You know, oh, you're gonna think this, you're gonna feel that, you're gonna get jealous, you're gonna be lustful, you're gonna be angry. Think like this, it'll help. you know? It's like an old folk remedy almost, like take some garlic, you feel better, you know? Put on a mustard plaster, it'll help, right? And it does, a bit, right? But it's not an antidote, really. And, you know, someone hits you, think of them as your teacher, right? But it can't get rid of the anger completely, and it can't destroy the root cause of it. And so, the only thing that can get rid of these afflictions is seeing emptiness directly. There is no other way to get rid of these afflictions or any other afflictions permanently other than seeing emptiness directly, period. So, you know, so much of the scriptures are teaching how to perceive emptiness directly. And we're so fortunate to have holy teachers, Holy Geshe Michael and others who teach about the importance of seeing emptiness and how you can actually see emptiness, and to have a teacher that will sit down and say, when you're meditating, meditate on emptiness like this. Try to practice like this to see emptiness. When you do that, to think to see emptiness. You know, here's a progression you go through to see emptiness. Incredibly rare and precious opportunity, right? It's the only thing that can get us to nirvana and enlightenment. It's the only thing that can end any mental affliction permanently, right? And everything we do up until that point is patch, you know? It's a band-aid. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of approaching it. It's a way of treating it to help, to reduce the mental affliction, to tame the mental affliction, to bring it under control so that we can continue to move towards seeing emptiness directly, right? So all this work and all this practice is around reining it in, reining in the negativity, reining in the mind, reconditioning, re-habituating the mind, so that we can get the mind to a sufficiently pure, still, clean state such that it can perceive emptiness directly, so that we can permanently end our mental afflictions, right? So, you know, we are aspiring bodhisattvas, and we're dealing with these mental afflictions because we don't want to unleash them on other people, right? So we apply whatever methods and techniques we have at our disposal, and there are many, with the understanding that it's part of a process of becoming purer, cleaner, karmically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, so that we can reach a sufficient level of clarity and stillness and purity, so that our mind can reach a sufficient level of clarity and purity and stillness to be able to experience ultimate reality directly. Why? Because it too is a projection of our mind. Right? There is no self-existent ultimate state. Right? So we are training ourselves and bringing ourselves to a place where our minds can and will function to project emptiness and ultimate reality, which is a realization which enables us to stop behaving in every negative way quickly. Once we have that projection of ultimate reality and emptiness, we have a basis, a mental, emotional, visceral, realizational basis to change our behavior dramatically, so that we rein in the negativity and manifest virtue. And that's our goal, that's our practice. So all of this, the guide and the rest, is part of the process. You know, it's moving us along this continuum of mental purity and stillness and capacity for pure projection, so that we can get to a place where we have the necessary pure projection, which will enable us to put an end to all of our mental problems forever. Okay, good place to stop.
Thank you. Sashi Bogi Jushi Metakcha Real Lingji Nyende Vyampadi Sangye Shindu Mite Bewargi Shinda Jipasho Hidam Guru Ratna Mandala Kandinyatayani Gyawadi Gyawapun Sunam Yashe Soksokshin Sunam Yashe Lejun Hui Dampa Kuni Dampasho.
By the power of our deeds and by the power of our intention, by the power of our holy aspirations, may we quickly come to experience ultimate reality directly. May we quickly end all suffering everywhere.
Thank you.
Amen. I haven't heard that in a long time.
Summer camp song.